Hey, this is Robert again at Merit Web Project, and we're looking at the second educational video for the personality spectrum analysis. Last video, I was rudely cut off by time constraints. Sometimes I can get away with a video that's long, sometimes I can't. You don't know until you try to publish it and it blows up. So I really don't like to do that. Don't like to go over 15 minutes. And I really like to respect your time too, because I know sometimes you don't have a lot of time to listen to something and you can slide in 15 minutes rather than 45 minutes. 45 minutes is a problem for some people. 15 minutes, well, you got a little bit of time, you slide that in and you're done. So I try to keep my videos 15 minutes. The last one was 18 and I was concerned it wouldn't compress properly. But I kind of blew over a couple things and I'm trying to find out where I was at here. Okay, I totally skipped the optimal functioning and discrepancy scores. I'm still not going to cover this completely because this is extremely important and it deserves its own video. Really does. This is an incredible addition to the PSA results. When you learn how to use this properly, you can see some stuff. You can see some stuff that may really point you in a direction, counseling, that is very, very powerful. So this section up here attempts, without getting overly mathematical on you, because I know everybody just loves math, and I don't want to put you into some kind of an addictive issue here. Seriously, this has to do with high-end statistics, and I don't want to go there if I don't have to. Let's just look at this visually for now. When we get to this individually, we'll deal with it. Maybe not to the end of mathematics, as some people who are obsessed with those numbers might want, but we'll dig into it a little deeper. First of all, you're going to notice not only here but up in the constructs up above, there are some scores that are blue. Those scores will all be above 105 because 105 is our breach. That's in the test. Make sure you remember that. 105. Any score above 105 on any scale is statistically important. Not statistically maladaptive necessarily, but statistically in a category that is beginning to diminish the number of people in that group. So we see blue scores. I stay away from the traffic light scores or traffic light colors when it's not a traffic light situation. Green, yellow, red, they tell us something when we're driving. Green says go, yellow says be careful, and to some people yellow says go faster so you can get through. It's not what it's intended to mean, but that's what some people think it means. Red means stop. Okay, and in this case, a great example over here. You got light pink, you got medium colored pink, you got red. I don't know if that's the darkest red, but it's pretty dark. I think there might be 4 colors of red. I think there might be one even redder than this. But you've got blue over here. Blue is outside of the traffic colors, okay? Which means that it's not a precautionary issue. Over here, we don't have the yellow. Yellow is an option over here. We don't have yellow. Yellow is oh, I can't remember what. I think it's 5 to 9%. Maybe not. I think 10. 10 is the first breach here. Yes, I'm sorry. 10 is the first breach. And then you've got 15 as the second breach, which is going to give you this medium red. And then I'm not sure. I think it's 20, and then 25 may give you another red. That's like blood red. But you see reds here. You see a couple scores that are white. Okay, reds, pinks, anything in that color, or yellows. Those are all precautionary negative results. Just as a cursory. We haven't dealt with optimal scores at all yet. We've only dealt with constructs and maladaptations. So this whole section here is totally new. We need a video just for this. But this is powerful stuff. We'll get into this whole thing. Optimal raw score. The raw score is a score that's unaffected by anything else. It's what the person said. Optimal adjusted is what the person really said, but may not have known what they said. The discrepancy is exactly what you would think it is. It is the difference between optimal raw and optimal adjusted. Now you see here, their optimal raw score was 95 and their adjusted was 98. So they disfavored themselves a bit. Again, they did the same thing with schizoid. Hopefully you will understand this whole thing before we're done. This one, their optimal raw was 115. They got knocked down to 111. Their optimal was 110. They got knocked down to 106. Knocked down 110 to 99, 103, 99, 112, 110. Avoidant, we went up. Dependency, dependent, way down. They said, I'm 103. The survey said, no, you're 94. Again, we're going to get back to this, but you begin to see this is what they said about themselves, and this is what's really true based on what we see. And this is the difference. Now, I can't stress enough, we're going to get into this. We're going to try to solve this riddle. You get a 3-point difference here and a discrepancy of 12%. You get a 2-point difference here and a discrepancy of 1%. How in the world's that figure out? Mathematically, logically, that doesn't even seem to be anything that makes any sense. It does make sense mathematically. I'm not gonna beat you up with advanced statistics, but I'm gonna try to explain that to you when we get here. Just know, when you see the darker reds here, there's a real discrepancy, a significant statistical discrepancy between what a person thinks and what they really are. There's a conflict there that may need to be resolved. That's the bottom line. Next area we skipped. This is an area, and you need to understand this. You need to hear this because this is really important. This area, I had a therapist contact me and said, "Wow, I just had a really bizarre situation in my office. I think I just had a psychopath." And I really wish that somehow you could create a tool that would show me whether or not I have a psychopath sitting in my office. So, I don't know why, instantaneously, when I got that email, I was intrigued, but in the back of my mind I thought, I think I might be measuring everything I need to measure in the PSA to give this person what they want without modifying anything, without adding anything, without doing anything other than digging and identifying. So I immediately went ripping through the internet to find out a definition for a psychopath. Find out that psychopath is a relative term. Sociopath, psychopath. I downloaded the criteria for sociopath, for psychopath. You start looking at them side by side, which I did in columns in a Word document. You can't tell the difference between the two. I wish that we could use the truth and just say nutcase. Oh, we can't do that. That's labeling people in a negative way, but really, this is a psychological condition where a person is exhibiting characteristics where they can violate other people or violate all of society in a way that is horrific. Now, the FBI doesn't have a problem using the word psychopath. They have their own criteria for determining whether or not a person is a psychopath. And they don't care that the word psychopath is not in the DSM-4, DSM-5 language. It's not there. We don't have you can't go to the DSM-4, DSM-5 and say, okay, well, here's the criteria for a psychopath. I'm going to tell whether Jane Doe is a psychopath. Psychopathology is not yet defined as a real disorder, disease, whatever, whatever. It's not. So, y'all got me on this rabbit trail of defining something that doesn't exist. Well, I started looking at criteria, hard criteria from reputable sites. What is a psychopath? What do the fringe sites say? What do the reputable sites say? Looking at the reputable sites, I determined this. On the test, watch it. There are 7 personality factors in the PSA that can be defined as associated with psychopathology, whatever that might mean. Number 1 on the list is antisocial personality maladaptation. Antisocial personality disorder, actually. Okay, let's go back up here. No personality disorders have been diagnosed for Jane. You want the truth, you gotta go, and I'm going to fix this here. Because right after where my cursor is, it should say go to and attempt to diagnose. If a person, see the black here, without it, it is questionable whether psychopathy can be indicated. If a person does not have psychopathic or antisocial personality disorder. It is questionable whether or not you can even call that person a psychopath. This is square one. This is the only square. You need to go do personality disorder analysis, and I am not going to change anything for DSM-5 other than the way it's saved, because fortunately we didn't mess with the personality disorders definitions from the switch from DSM-4 to DSM-5. They stayed the same. They were going to totally mess it up. They didn't do it. If you think you have a psychopath, you need to go to the personality disorders thingy and see whether or not you can diagnose them with antisocial. If you can't, wow, it's kind of questionable whether you have a psychopath. Antisocial and borderline together, that's dangerous. Worse yet, antisocial and narcissistic. That by some people is considered sociopath, whatever that means. Paranoid, schizoid. These are all the characteristics. These 5. Antisocial being king, borderline, narcissistic, paranoid, and schizoid. If these other 4 exist, if you got them all lit up here in yellow or worse, and he's lit up in yellow or worse, you might be looking at a problem. Dependent and schizotypal, notice what it says. Elevated dependent maladaptation contraindicates. This person cuts someone's throat. You can't be dependent and cut somebody's throat. Schizotypal under DSM-5 is considered a psychotic condition. You can't be psychotic and antisocial. These are calculating people. They're not hearing voices. They may be. There may be some atypical people who fall in these groups. Less likely. Now, what's really important here, anger. Anger and antisocial. Anger, borderline. So important. If you have given the test, so watch out for this, it's on the test. If you have given anger, addictions, or home of origin, a summary of results will appear in here. This person is an abuser type. Addictions, religion, work, sex. Religion and sex go together, okay? I don't know why, but there's a very strong affinity between those two. If addictions is there, you're going to see them. Alcohol and drugs are true addictive potential. Food, sex, gambling, religion, and work are compulsive behaviors. They're not addictions. Sorry. Psychopathic indicators. These are the items from treatment of others on up to anger that, from the best of my research, I have determined that these are the indicators that make a person a psychopath. They have anger. They don't give a rip about rules. Emotional states, poverty, and major affective reactions, incapacity for low, shallow emotional response, inappropriate emotional response. They're faking it, okay? Manufactured emotional response. Emotional responsibilities ain't got none. Control issues, chronic Manipulation. There you go. That's borderline right there. Egocentricity. Okay, well, now we're talking about um, um, narcissistic, personal responsibility, unresponsive. The treatment of others, really parasite. Okay, and then this is kind of like an addition and average of this whole thing. When this baby lights up yellow or red, you need to go back up and look at everything else you got here. If you haven't administered the other 3 things that attach here, you got to do it. All right, well, we're way over time. Hopefully this thing's going to can. And we'll be back on this shortly.